in concrete terms, what are you calling for in terms of this budget process?
Well, we are asking the legislature to consider using the provisions of Section 58(5) of the Constitution to override the presidential veto on this bill that seeks to amend Section 81 and 121 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. As you will recall, the bill seeks to set a time frame for the president to submit budget estimates not later than 90 days to the end of the financial year, and also mandates the National Assembly or State House of Assembly to approve of the budget before the end of the financial year, paving the way for the presidential or governorship assent so that the bill will now become law and the implementation will roll from January 1. As against today, where we have the budget starting in the middle of the year and distorting the financial year calendar, and also distorting the planning and budget process of publicly quoted companies and private companies that run the usual January to December calendar, because private individuals, private organizations and stakeholders usually take a cue from government in their planning, because government gives direction in the economy.
Why do you think this is important? In view of the fact that budgets have not even been religiously implemented in this country over time?
Part of why budgets have not been religiously implemented is this timing issue. So if the timing issue is corrected, it gives more ample opportunity for these things to be corrected. Not that you may get it 100%, but that we could move up to 70-80%.
As a guide.
Yes, that's a good beginning.
But have you looked at the politics of it? Because those of you in the civil society may look at maybe the broader picture or the patriotic picture, but politicians always have the proclivity of looking at the politics of it. The National Assembly is populated more by the APC, the parties, the president's party, and therefore they may not want to override it.
Well, I don't see the National Assembly not overriding because of party politics. Because it was the same party, the APC was in the majority when the Senate President was held before a CCT, and the case was vigorously fought up till the Supreme Court. A lot of all the ding-dong between the executive and the legislature have been happening, with majority of the legislators being in the APC. So it's a patriotic duty which they have to perform in accordance with their oath of office. It has nothing to do with the party they belong to.
Okay, now let's look at the fact that as we speak, the issue of the latest executive order signed by the president, that's Order 6, is brewing a lot of controversies. What's your take on this, a constitutional lawyer and a civil society person?
An executive order is usually made to streamline the implementation of an already existing law. An executive order cannot be the basis for a new power, function, right or duty conferred either on the president or any member of the executive at all. So you ask yourself, under what existing law can the president gazette the properties of 150 persons and forfeit it? With the greatest respect, I find no such powers under existing law. So for the president to have grabbed that kind of power, or if he wanted that power, he should have submitted a bill to the National Assembly to give him that power in the first place. And then that bill will still be subject to interpretation by the judicial arm, which determines the civil rights and obligations of the citizen in accordance with existing law.
But the president has the powers in the Constitution to sign executive orders or to allow for executive orders.
But you didn't get what I said. Executive orders can be signed to implement already existing law. You cannot use executive orders to create a new power or duty or right for Mr. President. So you understand what I'm saying? It's trying to usurp the powers of both the legislature and the judiciary, because the power of determining whether a property is forfeited or not belongs to the judex.
Have you looked at the ICPC Act? The laws that created both the ICPC and the EFCC, there are provisions there that empowers the president.
No.
Or these agencies for going after corrupt people.
They can do that, but if you go and say this property you suspect is corrupt, the same law says you must go to the court. It is the court that gives the order. That's why there is a difference between investigation, prosecution, and the judicial determination. When somebody is being investigated, he's just a suspect. He only transforms into an accused, which is a higher degree. When the charge is read to him, he enters the box, the charge is read to him and say, you did XXXY this, how do you plead? You say guilty or not guilty? At that level, you're formally charged. So nobody has that right except when there is a judicial determination. And that's why you have the procedure that allows the EFCC and ICPC to go ex parte before a judge, obtain an interim freezing order, and then put the party on notice, the party who claims to own the property, to come and show cause why it shouldn't be forfeited to the state. Prove that you legally and legitimately acquire this property. We know your salary is 200,000 and this is a property of 1 billion. It could be that you won an American lottery we did not know. It could be that your father was very rich and he left property for you. It could be anything from your in-laws, whatever. If you're able to prove the source of your legitimate source of the 1 billion, the property is returned to you. But never, ever is it left in the hands of the executive. Because we are talking of absolute dictatorship. The kind of tweets that we're having from the EFCC. Somebody's party lost the election and said the party is over, we are waiting for you. Does that not show you that they are descending into the arena? It's a descent into the arena.
How are you sure it's the FCC that made that?
I don't know. It's not been denied. They later deleted it. People have been criticizing them, and they have not said anything. But however, I'm just trying to tell you that if this kind of tweet is coming, doesn't it show that people are descending?
Mr. Onyekpere, one would have expected that as someone who has been a champion for a good society, those of you in the civil society will hail this step to sanitize the country. It is
not about sanitization. We cannot help, because I don't know where you were when we fought for democracy. I don't know where you were when we said that the military should go. We did not ask the military to go, to now come and erect a colossus, a leviathan, who will now tower over us and be doing exactly that same thing for which we chased away the military.
Do you agree?
For which we chased away the military. There is nothing. He can do it through due process. This is a man on a power grab. Do you agree
that corruption in Nigeria is a hydra-headed monster that we need to go the extra mile to curtail?
Now, can you listen? What you are constructing is not a categorical syllogism. Categorical syllogism in the sense that corruption being a hydra-headed monster does not inexorably lead to power grab. Corruption is a hydra-headed monster, and there are several ways to tackle it, and you must tackle it under the concept of the rule of law. You cannot tackle corruption by another corruption of the system. To grab power that the Constitution did not give to Mr. President is corruption. It's corruption. To aggregate powers to yourself, which was not given to you, is corruption. If you go back to your office now and you begin to assume powers that belong to your superiors, it's corruption. Do you agree with that?
I do not agree.
And it is a part of being corruption. It is an offense for which you should be sacked from the public service of the Federation. Because go and read your public service rules properly.
In view of where we are now, what do you suggest so as to ensure that the fight against corruption moves to the next level?
The rule of law, number one. The rule of law, number two. The rule of law, number three. Once you leave the rule of law, you are on a voyage of discovery. But you are on an expedition of your own. You have left where normal human beings are, and you are on an arbitrary voyage of expedition to discover what.
But are you aware
because the road to hell is paved with the best of intentions.
But are you aware that most corrupt people hide under the rule of law to circumvent the laws?
I'm not aware of that. The law takes its process. The law takes its process. Is it not the same rule of law that was abused to put people on trial to force them to resign from their position? Is it not the same rule of law where we were told that the chairman of the CCT had no case to answer, and when he gave a judgment, the same rule of law now wanted to arraign him until the Attorney General intervened? What is your concept of the rule of law? The arbitrary rule of a leviathan by one man who claims he does no wrong. That's why I have to submit myself to. After all these years of going through learning and philosophical and jurisprudential expositions about the rule of law and democratization, and this link to the fundamental concept of development, you want me to submit my life and of myself to the arbitrary and whimsical rule of one man? Far be it from me.
Thank you very much.